Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we are tracking for you this evening. We've got lots of earnings coming in, and Wipro's earnings have come in. Of course, the market's ending at a record high, but then we saw a sell-off coming in terms of intraday trade, which impacted the market movement. Prices raised their inflation forecast on the back of the inflation print that came in last evening. Wipro's revenues declined nearly 3% in Q1 on constant currency. Shares of TCS rise after meeting muted estimates in Q1. Shares of PSU Bank see profit booking as federal banks' margins shrink. Prime Minister Modi's two-day visit to France begins today. After hitting a 60-year high, water levels in the Yamuna continue to rise. The Delhi government makes preparations for evacuating people from areas close to the banks. Disney gives CEO Bob Iger 2 more years to find his successor. Well, let's go straight to the market action of the day. We saw a big intraday swing, record highs, and then we saw the markets giving up some of those gains. Surabhi standing by now to take us through the market action. Surabhi, what went on today?
Well, today will have to qualify as a bit of a disappointing day for the bulls. And the reason I say that, despite a 50-point gain on the index, is that it is for the 6th consecutive session that the Nifty didn't close above the 19,500 mark. In fact, it had everything going for it today. The momentum was very, very sharp. The Nifty and the Sensex both hit fresh all-time highs in the first 1.5 hours of trade. You had great global cues coming in. You even had buying in IT stocks. But despite all of that, the second half of the session turned out to be very, very different. Suddenly, there was a rapid fall in the mid-cap arena, and then it extended to large caps. A lot of the selling was led by auto stocks. There was selling in FMCG and then banks. Today was the weekly expiry for the Bank Nifty, and that index immediately cooled off after around 130 or so, and there was no meaningful recovery. On the Nifty, it was really the IT stocks that continued to fight back all the way, which is why towards the end we managed to at least close above 19,400, because in the last half hour, even that level had been breached. Reliance was another big stock that was reversing direction, adding pressure on the downside. But then, as I said, for what it's worth, IT saw the buy-on dips play out, and classic, very smart buy-on dips. TCS, Infosys, even LTI-Mindtree, which makes its debut on the Nifty. These stocks had some gains. HCL Tech also didn't fall too much, despite that howler of a number coming in for the first quarter. Just a word on mid-caps. Now, the mid-cap index has closed down about 0.7%. Specifically, want to point out that there was more selling today on Delta Corp and Nazara after the clarifications came in from the Revenue Secretary to CNBC-TV18 about the 28% GST level for casinos and online gaming. Interestingly, however, some of the new age companies ended positive. So let me end on that optimistic note. We had good buying on Zomato, for instance. Even Delivery and PB Fintech managed to find some gainers. But overall, a lot of volatility. So we need to watch out for tomorrow's session very carefully.
Yes, we will be watching out for tomorrow's session closely. Surabhi, many thanks for joining us. And we are in the midst of earnings season. Software major Wipro has just announced its first quarter numbers. Revenues have declined nearly 3% in Q1 on a constant currency basis. The company's guidance projects a tepid revenue growth in Q2 and even warns of a contraction. Rima is standing by with more on Wipro's management commentary as well as the fine print of the results. Rima.
Thanks so much for that. So it's a weak quarter, but in line with muted expectations. The street was not expecting fireworks this time, and it's been a weak performance. So constant currency revenue growth has contracted by 2.8% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Now, Wipro had told us last quarter that in Q1, revenues for the company will either fall -1% or up to -3%. What the company has delivered at -2.8% is at the lower end of their own guidance and slightly worse than street expectations, which were at -2 to -2.2%. It's also worse compared to peers. So TCS had a flat growth this time, and HCL Tech had a -1.3 performance. The guidance for the next quarter is quite crucial, and here the company is guiding for -2 to +1%. So the good part in the guidance is at least they're holding out the possibility of a positive growth, because consensus expectations was that the guidance for the next quarter will either be 0 to 2 or -1 to -3%, which basically means everyone was expecting for a negative growth in Q2. But at least Wipro is holding out the hope for a positive guidance. Margins have declined by 25 basis points. There is no wage hike impact, so the weakness in margins is purely because their revenues have contracted. Deal wins continue to be robust. This is something that we've seen across for the industry. Total bookings at $3.7 billion is slightly lower compared to what we had in the prior quarter, but the large deal bookings at $1.2 billion is a pickup on a sequential basis. I think the bigger miss and a telling sign in Wipro's numbers this time is the very sharp headcount addition. Headcount for the company has fallen by more than 7,000 employees on a quarter-on-quarter basis. We're looking at a big contraction in the company's headcount. Just to put it in context, TCS at least managed to increase their headcount by 500. For HCL Tech, it was a revenue headcount decline of 2,500. But for Wipro, at more than 7,000, this is a weak number. Attrition, as we've seen with the case of others, has fallen by 17.3%. Thierry Delaporte, CEO, MD of the company, says, despite a gradual reduction in clients' discretionary spending, we maintain new business momentum, basically referring to the deal wins that the company has announced. So all in all, it's a weak showing, but it's predictable, in line with what the street was anticipating. Back to you.
All right, Rima, many thanks for joining us. That was Wipro for you. But remember, TCS also came out with its numbers overnight, reporting a muted set of numbers in Q1. But as Rima was pointing out, this was also along expected lines. Deal wins have been the silver lining, staying above $10 billion for the second straight quarter. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, the CEO, Krithivasan, said that while the total contract value remains strong, he's unsure when economic macro uncertainties will subside.
Our position is like you saw, our TCV is continued strong, but we do see that our volume growth in terms of revenue and it's persisting in variety. So it's too early to call, and also we don't know when the macro uncertainties will subside. And if somebody tells us that okay, it will subside by next quarter, we'll say then from then on there will be more optimism.
Well, that's TCS, and HCL Tech reported a big miss on both revenue and margin for the first quarter of FY24. Constant currency revenue also slipped over 1%, contracted for the second quarter in a row. The company, however, maintains its growth guidance for FY24. The MD and CEO, C. Vijaykumar, has said that challenges in tech and telecom hurt overall performance, but added he expects business to recover from here on.
We have challenges in tech and telecom because we saw some more ramp downs during the quarter, more than what we expected. And that's what has resulted in a decline in these two verticals, serious decline. But we do believe things will recover from here on. We've always maintained that our guidance is organic, so 6 to 8% is organic. Whatever contribution from ASAP will be incremental to the organic guidance numbers that we've shared.
Well, those are the tech earnings for you. Now, brokerages have raised their inflation forecast after food and vegetable prices spiked in the month of June. However, the 10-year bond yields have eased, and that's thanks to cooling U.S. inflation and a decline in the dollar index. Lata's here with more. Lata, what are brokerages now saying?
Basically, the CPI number coming in at 4.8 versus expectations of 4.6, and 4.6 is already a bumped up number because the May number was 4.25. Already economists were expecting higher. This is entirely because of food inflation coming in at 4.5 compared to May's 2.91. So led by, as we all know, the culprits, tomatoes, vegetables. And when vegetables are expensive, people eat more pulses. So pulses became expensive, and meat and egg, other competing food items, also became expensive. Fortunately, not so much on cereals. But this huge number, 4.8, and the fact that tomato inflation doesn't look like ebbing anytime soon has led economists around the brokerages, along all banks, to up their forecast. So the first up we got from Citibank, they are upping their forecast for the full year to 5.3 from 4.9. And for July and August itself, it's over 6%. You know, 6% is the Lakshman Rekha for the Monetary Policy Committee. They can't allow CPI to go above that. But July CPI may come at 6.4 and August at 6.1. If tomato prices remain elevated, and usually it's a 3-4 month cycle. Once they rise, they tend to be sticky till the next crop comes in. And actually, tomato is a winter crop. Then the other things that Citi says is that CPI will not now touch the 4-point-something handle for the rest of FY24, which means it will remain above 5% even in the months when it is not 6. And the impact on RBI, no. RBI is not going to therefore change its hiking cycle. It will remain on a long pause and may say that we are looking through what could be a temporary rise in CPI. So although the number is bad, they are not expecting impact on actually the cost of money for you and me. Likewise, SBI also says they expect the July-September, that is the second quarter CPI, to rise to 5.8% average for 3 months. And it may even go to 6 if tomato prices make potatoes and onions expensive. Usually that happens. One vegetable spills over to the others because people consume less of one and more of the other. So the average for FY24 is also being raised by SBI to 5.2 to 5.4 if the next 2 months play badly on the vegetables front. Kotak has upped their forecast to 5.1 from 4.9 for the full year. And they say starting from now to end of the year, it's going to be 5.3%. You're not going to see a figure less than 5 in any month. But again, they say that it is not going to impact Reserve Bank's actions. It will remain a long pause. And even the stance will not change, because even when they go into the October policy, the last number they will have will be August, which will be above 6%. So, they can't even change their stance in the October policy. Of course, they will certainly not do it in August. But just one point, because the US CPI numbers are so much more important for the global cost of money, today bond yields fell. Although everyone knows inflation forecast is going to be upped, bond yields are lower by 3 or 4 basis points.
Okay, Lata, many thanks for joining us. Moving away from inflation now, shares of PSU Bank saw some profit booking today. Federal Bank reporting first quarter earnings. The bank's margins contracted, and that led to a decline across bank stocks. Do keep in mind, stocks have been rallying for the last few weeks. Federal Bank CEO Shyam Srinivasan expects margins to improve from Q2. He's also upbeat about sustaining business growth rate at 20%.
We see a 7-8 basis point improvement in NIMs in the Q2. And then from there, we will see how the mix of the business plays out and business momentum. But yes, we are seeing the pickup visible. For the year, we had guided we'll grow in the high teens, 18 to 20. We started well with 20% growth in Q1. At this point in time, I believe that should sustain.
Well, away from earnings now, the big story, Prime Minister Modi has arrived in France for his 2-day visit. He's scheduled to take part in the Bastille Day celebrations on the 14th of July as the guest of honour. India will also have its tri-services contingent joining French forces in the parade. During his 2-day visit, the Prime Minister will hold discussions with French President Emmanuel Macron and other French dignitaries. He's also set to interact with the Indian diaspora and top CEOs in France. In his departure statement, the Prime Minister expressed confidence that his visit will boost bilateral partnership between both countries. And speaking of the Prime Minister's visit to France, the Defence Acquisition Council has approved the acquisition of 26 Rafale marine aircraft and 3 Scorpion submarines for the Indian Navy. Parikshit standing by with the details. Parikshit, a big order cleared for the Indian Navy by the Defence Acquisition Council. What next now?
Well, this was a long-standing demand of the Indian Navy to have 3 additional Scorpion submarines and also 26 fighter aircraft for India's naval carriers. Now, this has received approval from the Defence Acquisition Council. Rajnath Singh heads the Defence Acquisition Council, and this is an important clearance ahead of the Prime Minister's visit. We believe that now negotiations will now begin on the pricing, the contract, the indigenization content. In fact, interestingly, today the Defense Acquisition Council has also approved guidelines for indigenization levels in all capital acquisition matters. We know for a fact that these 3 additional Scorpene submarines, like the ones earlier, will be manufactured at Mazagon Dock Limited, and the government believes this will improve the indigenization capabilities of Mazagon Docks. The final delivery timelines and the pricing of the Rafale jets, that may take some more time to unveil, because this will have to be agreed upon by both the countries, and then the Cabinet Committee on Security will have to sign off on that as well. So it's going to take a few more months at least for this contract to be finalized. But according to many reports, the value of this deal could be around 5.5 billion euros. So let's see what happens. There will be final negotiations during the Prime Minister's visit, and then they are likely to form groups which will negotiate on the pricing in the months to come. But very important deals. We're also hearing of discussions on a jet engine deal, a co-development deal between Safran of France and DRDO as well. In total, there could be 5 to 6 defense deals, discussions on techno-commercial aspects of the Jaitapur nuclear power plant as well, and a power-packed CEO delegation, the likes of Sudarshan Venu of TVS Motor Company, Amit Kalyani of Bharat Forge, Hari Bhartia of Jubilant, Rahul Bhatia of Indigo. All of them are likely to be present there at the Indo-France CEOs Forum tomorrow.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Coming up next, after hitting a 60-year high, water levels in the Yamuna continue to rise, causing flooding in some parts of Delhi. Schools and colleges have been shut for the week. The government has asked officials to work from home. That and more when we return. Well, several parts of Delhi remain flooded as an overflowing Yamuna has inundated low-lying areas around parts of the capital. The water level in the Yamuna has risen after the Hatni Kund barrage in Haryana released water into the river. The Delhi government has urged the centre to intervene and stop the water discharge, but the centre replied that excess water from the barrage had to be released downstream. Areas around the Red Fort, Central Secretariat and civil lines were heavily flooded, leading to traffic snarls. The Delhi government has already restricted the entry of heavy goods vehicles, except those carrying essential items into the city. 12 National Disaster Response Force teams have been deployed. Schools and colleges have been closed for the week. All government offices, except those on essential duties, have been asked to work from home. There has been waterlogging near Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's official residence as well. He has advised people not to step out of their homes unless absolutely necessary. Our team of reporters brings us a ground check on how the city is grappling with the floods.
Get you the closest look of the Yamuna River. In fact, this is the closest one could get right now to this very river, which is actually flowing way above the danger mark. You can see how aggressive is the flow of this river right now. And in fact, the currents are flowing very high. The current level of water which is flowing, the speed of water is very high. This is the backside of Lal Killa, and till where you can see there's only water. And in fact, from the point I can see the road, that bit of road is the flyover actually, and that is the elevated road. And in fact, once that elevated road ends, then yet again you see the water all around this very area.
There you see the condition of Bhairo Marg. This is one important road that connects the Ring Road and the central Delhi. Whenever you are coming from Noida, you have limited options available as far as routes are concerned, and this is one of the prominent routes. But now we have this condition. In fact, these are 4 to 5 lanes, and you can see, it is fully submerged in water. In fact, this water level is constantly rising.
This is the Yamuna Bazaar area, and in fact, you can see the NDRF officials carrying out the rescue work over here. And in fact, this is the very team which is going inside that very place, because yesterday we reported from the bank of Yamuna Bazaar and we witnessed that the water levels were somewhere, they were not that high, but in fact the boats were already running. But now since yesterday, since the water levels have gone beyond 208 meters, the water has started to come inside this very road.
And on my right is the road which leads towards the residence of Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. But this is the main road on which we are currently standing, and knee-deep water is something what we can see from this particular place. And in fact, there are many of the commuters as well who are facing the trouble.
कब से पानी यहाँ पे घुसा है? ये सुबह 5 बजे। सुबह 5 बजे। 5 बजे से लेके भरना चालू हुआ और पूरा भर गया।
अंदर लाइट आ रही है क्या स्थिति अगर आप बता?
अभी काट दी लाइट। अभी काट दी लाइट।
कितना अंदर क्या घरों में?
नहीं, यहाँ तक भर गया सर।
घर के अंदर भी गया?
घर के अंदर भी गया। गाड़ियाँ डूब गई हैं। जितनी गाड़ियाँ देख रहे हैं सारी डूब गई हैं।
The entire Chhat Puja Ghat located on Yamuna's bank in Delhi has been submerged in water. The government has taken ample rearguard measures to ensure no loss of lives and property in Delhi, even as the water level in Yamuna in Delhi is expected to rise to 208.75 meters by the end of today and is expected to abate thereafter. The government has asked all schools, colleges and non-essential government offices to remain closed till Sunday.
Well, trying times there in the capital. But on to global news now. In an overnight drone attack by Russia, at least one person was killed and 4 injured in Ukrainian capital Kyiv. As per Reuters, Ukraine authorities claim that Russia has been involved in a drone attack for a 3rd day in a row. Further, Ukrainian authorities claim it has shot down 20 drones, 2 missiles launched by Russia. This downed drone has led to fire, killing a civilian. Hollywood braces for a first potential shutdown in 63 years. The Screen Actors Guild has recommended joining the strike along with writers who are at loggerheads with studios over new contracts. Disney has extended its CEO Bob Iger's contract by 2 years till the end of 2026. This was supposed to be a short stint for the entertainment giant after Iger returned last November. He has been charged with finding a new successor before the end of 2024, but Disney said that its independent directors had voted unanimously to extend Iger's term by 2 years. Disney further added that Iger's extension provides continuity of leadership during the company's ongoing transformation and allows more time to execute a transition plan for CEO succession. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news continues when we return.